Hello, everyone, and welcome to Voices of Sustainability. I'm Charlotte Kahn, and I'm delighted to present a new episode of our virtual fireside chat series where our guests will discuss the nexus of food sustainability and cutting-edge AI technology. Now, before I introduce you to our fantastic guests, a few words about the Zayed Sustainability Prize. Established in 2008 as the United Arab Emirates Pioneering Global Award, the prize recognizes organizations and high schools for their sustainable, innovative, and humanitarian solutions. Today, the prize counts 16 years of global impact, with 384 million people around the world benefiting from its winners' solutions across the categories of health, food, energy, water, climate action, and global high schools. So without much further ado, please welcome our three fantastic guest speakers today: Allison Kopf, CEO at Tract; Christopher Chileshe, who's co-founder and CTO of AIponics and Harvest; and Satyam Bose, the CEO at Virentia. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And before we even get started with our discussion around food sustainability and AI and emerging tech, can I please ask you all to very briefly introduce yourselves in a sentence or two, starting with Allison, maybe?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm an ag tech entrepreneur, and right now I'm the CEO of Tract. We are a joint venture between Cargill, ADM, Louis Dreyfus, and Olam, and focus on two things. One is aligning the supply chain industry around the complexities that go into the methodologies and metrics of sustainability tracking, and developing the technology to allow for the sharing of that information in the supply chain.
Thank you, Allison. Satyam.
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. We at Virentia are working at creating the evidence-based framework with codified metrics and tamper-proof codified metrics for transition from chemical-based farming to your regenerative and sustainable farming.
Thank you. Christopher?
Thank you, Charlotte. And at Harvest Iponics, we are a digital marketplace focused on helping solve food insecurity by helping position Africa as a breadbasket of the world. And our core focus is really to build a data platform that solves for the data asymmetry, where buyers can't find suppliers and vice versa. And so with that information and with that data, we're able to more appropriately and accurately assess where the food deserts and food oases are and help coordinate the marketplace more efficiently, as well as help to find innovative, sustainable solutions for solving some of the supply gaps that we see.
Thank you very much. Now, Allison, to start with, based on your experience of setting up Artemis Agro and now Tract, what, in your opinion, are the main nodal points along the agri-food value chain where the introduction of AI could make a big difference and the most impact?
Yeah, really, really good question, right? And I try to think as practically as possible. There's a ton we can do, and I think the hot issue right now is on like fully autonomous and getting to a place where things are fully autonomous. And I certainly know that, right? So I came from the greenhouse world, which is complex, but is actually relatively easy to manage. Like, again, every farmer will yell at me, and I run greenhouses. I don't mean easy, but when you think about modeling, it's a relatively easy or limited model, I should say. And so the company that I was building last, for example, was in the computer vision space, and we were even focused on this kind of autonomous control of a greenhouse in partnership with Wageningen University in the Netherlands, because it's possible, right? And that, I think, is the important thing. When I say simple, I actually really just mean possible, not easy necessarily. And but there are really interesting applications there that are really practical that you can take and apply to anything, right? So how do you build to an autonomous model? Well, you can start with the data collection side. Really, really challenging to do. Lots of opportunities for any entrepreneur in this space who's listening. Lots of opportunity around data collection. The world I'm in now in Tract, we're trying to track all kinds of different commodities, right? We're talking about coffee and cocoa and palm and soy, you name it, like these massive supply chains where you're challenged with thinking about data collection in Indonesia versus data collection in Cote d'Ivoire. So these are totally different ecosystems, and thinking about how technology can come in from satellite imagery down to maybe even drone level technology, computer vision, all the way to smartphone technology, maybe, but even think about basic technology, right? How can we combine these things from a data collection standpoint to introduce something that's more cost effective and scalable? And then you can kind of make your way down the supply chain. You can think about validation verification, for example. When you're talking about these massive data sets, we're dealing in the world of compliance right now for the EUDR, the EU deforestation regulation here in the EU. And fundamentally, there's a challenge related to polygon data, the outline of a farm. How do you know where that polygon data came from? Is it the farm you said it came from, for example? Is it, are you actually growing in this region in Cote d'Ivoire versus maybe somewhere else in Africa, right? And these are real challenges that exist in data collection, data aggregation, data processing. So AI can be used in any one of these steps, all the way through to getting to a place of this full automation. So I think there's a ton of opportunities. It's almost like too big of an opportunity, which is exciting, because from an entrepreneur's lens, it means that there's just a lot we can all be working on. But lots of really practical things there. I mean, anything from counting things to processing things better to validation, right, all the way through to full autonomy is really exciting.
So many different applications indeed. And that's the problem normally with digitalization and emerging tech. There are so many possibilities that one of the challenges is actually to focus your attention and your action onto the right disruption points, I'm tempted to say. Now, Christopher, the food industry and AI, I'd say that naturally you wouldn't put two and two together. So tell me how AI Ponics and Harvest utilize AI to make the greatest impact.
Yeah, I think, most people will want to try and naturally chase sort of like the sexy side of the technology and apply it wherever they can. And I think some of that is driven through, sometimes what investors want to hear. So you end up doing things that may misalign with actually what you need. And I think in the food industry, first of all, we're dealing with commodities that are very, very price sensitive. So you have to be careful that your utilization of AI is not doing something that will balloon the cost of the products, the end products that you're, trying to get to people in a sustainable way. And so for us, we really focus on how can we use machine learning, how can we use even AI agents and sort of like Gen AI to be more operationally efficient, right? Can we make better decisions as a result of the data we collect and then the machine learning models we apply on top of that data? So for example, we've been able to scale our marketplace 2-3x without necessarily increasing the human resource footprint by taking advantage of things like Gen AI, taking advantage of automation that you can achieve with agents. And then as far as the data that we're collecting, the marketplace is rich. And, Allison spoke about how hard it is to collect data in one part of the region versus another part of the region. That resonates really, really true with us. But at the end of the day, if you can apply good models to that same data and then feed it back into the ecosystem, you're able to achieve much, much better economies of scale in terms of providing or bridging the gap with that data asymmetry I spoke about in my introduction. So that's a really, really key component for us, is making sure that the AI that we use is driving towards a continued sustainable growth model, continuing to help make decisions that align with, driving prices down, keeping things affordable. And so our services, being in a price sort of elastic ecosystem, really need to align with, the price point that people are willing to pay on both sides of the marketplace.
You have made a series of very valid points here about the unintended consequences of introducing more technology, because indeed you don't want it to lead to more food inflation or create or enhance the digital divide to make it even worse. Now, Satya, I have a similar question for you, really. AI in agriculture. Agriculture, we're thinking, well, for the luckiest, I guess, tractors, fields, something very concrete. So how do you use AI to enhance farming?
Yeah, so thanks, Charlotte. At Varentia, we are developing AI models to deliver customized dynamic package of practices for farming, which leads to better crop outcomes and minimizes environmental impact. Our digital diagnostic system, namely AgriTMS, is a highly accurate and reliable testing and monitoring system that is used for real-time soil and irrigation water analysis. Based on the precise data gathered, our engine recommends to the farmer the exact type of nutrition and amount of nutrition required depending on crop types. This ensures that we prevent over or under fertilization. In this way, we also avoid any such other activities that are damaging to the crop, soil, or the environment. In this volatile world with such climate uncertainties and rapid soil degradation, the ability to conduct real-time testing and then provide instant advisory is a real blessing. This helps the farmer to be highly responsive, adaptable, and flexible in their decision-making. When we couple our technology interventions with principles of regenerative and sustainable farming, we create a very robust system for farming that we at Virentia call digitally driven, climate smart, sustainable agriculture. In addition, we combine this system with our Farmix BioAg crop nutrition range that helps farmers transition away from chemicals and create a clear pathway to completely sustainable farming while still improving crop yields and productivity. Our products and processes also ensure that the farmers do not incur any losses during this critical transition period.
Thank you, Satyam. There again, a very interesting point around the empowerment of farmers and agriculture players through technology. Now, Allison, to delve even further into our topic, AI, can you tell us more about how it can provide real-time insights and predictive analytics to agricultural businesses and how transformational this data can be to improve productivity, yields, and overall sustainability?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you really, again, a practical example from a company called Unu. That's the company I last was working with, and we were using computer vision to count plants, which is we're doing a lot more. But fundamentally, one of the things that we were doing was using computer vision to automate the process of counting plants. And why that was important was this was a really manually intensive process. So you're automating a component of labor and not maybe eliminating the labor, but allowing that labor to shift to high value functions. But also too, it's a process that actually the human brain is notoriously bad at counting. If you send all of us out to go count a whole bunch of stuff, we're all coming back with different answers. It's just, it's a fun exercise, but we're notoriously bad at simple repetitive tasks that are especially time intensive as well. And so it was added value in that it was providing a lot of accuracy, which is the foundation for all of the sales forecasts, of course, and the business plan of a farm. But also too, it helped shift that labor to a high value function, right? And so I think we need to be thinking about these really practical examples of AI. Right now, one of the things that I see as a really, really major opportunity is in what I was talking about earlier around the validation of data. If we're talking about traceability in the supply chain amongst the major players and also the smallest players in the food and ag supply chain, ensuring that data is accurate through that supply chain from start to finish is incredibly important. Because if it is not accurate at any one segment of that data, of that supply chain rather, then we cannot programmatically trace back the success of sustainability initiatives, for example. And so it is really, really critical if we're talking about billions of dollars spent on programmatic investment in sustainability things like Satyam was talking about in regenerative ag, for example, then we have to be tracking the success of those programs and the impact of those programs. And that data has to be accurate, but it also has to be secure, right? And so there's a lot of considerations in there, but I think that's something that's really, really interesting to me right now is again, a specific use case around validation, but how it applies to this massive supply chain is really interesting.
Alison, I cannot resist a follow-up question here. Often the fear with AI and automation generally is that it could replace many jobs. What's your take on this? Can you maybe reassure the audience that the use cases of technology you have mentioned are really around augmenting the players in the food sector, not replacing them necessarily?
Yeah, maybe two things on this, and I'll counter myself, so bear with me. But one is I think it's really, really critical to your point. Like, I think it's about augmentation of roles and responsibilities, and it's about how technology can be used as a tool to do my job potentially better. Whether and you can define better, right? Is it more cost effective? Is it more accurate? Is it more valuable to the business in some way, shape, or form? Like, is it more profitable? But technology paired with expertise is so critical. You think about our business, for example, we're a technology business, but when I described what we do, half of what I said was about alignment, and that's people, that's experts to come together, because you can't have technology, in our opinion, without the expertise and the alignment piece in the industry. And so I do really think that it's critical that we pair them up. But I also think it would be naive of us, frankly, to have a conversation about AI and not acknowledge that there will be components of roles that will be replaced. I mean, we're in agriculture, there are so many different kinds of roles that some will make sense to automate. The idea of counting plants should be automated. It is better for a computer to do that job than a person to do that job, fundamentally. And so that person isn't necessarily being replaced, but that job is being replaced. So I do think we have to talk, if we're going to talk about AI, we have to talk about job replacement. We have to talk about augmentation. And then we also have to talk about how we're going to augment skills in order to meet those demands of a changing environment.
And job creation, of course, Allison, I haven't mentioned
it. Of course.
Also the new job appearing. Just like we've had data scientists, let's say, with digitalization. Christopher, next, I was wondering if you could address the fact that, given recent speculation that the large-scale development of AI could cost into the trillions, and Alison alluded to it in her reply, how can the food industry harness the costly benefits of AI with that significantly increasing the global cost of food, which is something that you mentioned in your first answer?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things that we as an industry are going to benefit from is all of the research that's going into Gen AI, LLMs, and machine learning. Because of this sort of like race to be the best at Gen AI, you're seeing some of the bigger players that are making those multi-billion-dollar investments in training large-scale language models, right? They're making a lot of those models open source, right? And so as a side benefit, if we're smart about it, we can leverage that technology, the open source technology, to do things more accurately within our industry. So, Allison talked about being, augmenting and looking for those opportunities. And I agree with that. I think if we are careful and we say, all right, let's choose these technologies to help augment an experience or augment a part of our business that's maybe lacking in investment, I think we could come out a huge beneficiary without substantially or even at all increasing the food cost, right? In fact, we could actually go the opposite direction and reduce the food cost as we do more automation, like Allison was saying, and applying those models in a way that makes sense. The other way that I think also makes sense is, in the past, what we've seen is there's been this increased cost there's been this race previously where you have AI speed ahead, and then you have to have the hardware to catch up with it. So, do we have enough GPUs to run these types of models and so on and so forth? And I think what you're starting to see actually is the bigger companies who are making those multi-billion-dollar investments are pushing out smaller models that can run on more efficient devices, which means that people like us in our industries can take advantage of those again in a much, much more cost-effective way. And so I think we're really actually a beneficiary of all of those investments. And because of the space we live in, we're not having to necessarily make those direct investments ourselves to develop these large language models or even any other kind of machine learning model. We can simply benefit from them and apply them in a way that makes sense. There's also part of what we do at Harvest is we want to be able to help accelerate farmers adopting precision farming techniques. And a lot of that is driven by data. It's driven by understanding what is what is this fruit and vegetable telling me? How can I maximize crop yield and crop mix, and how can I maximize the nutrients that are going into the soil and so on and so forth? And so with those precision farming techniques sort of becoming more front and center, we're hoping that we can help reduce some of that cost by growing more efficiently, and then using some of the machine learning models, whether that's predictive analytics or computer vision to detect disease. We can make better decisions around how we're growing the crop, and again, reverse the direction of food prices increasing. And so, the hope is that trickles down and kind of impacts the bottom line.
Thank you. It's very interesting indeed how you can harness all this extra information we are currently not really gathering in order to make informed and better decisions indeed. Now, Satyam, I have a slightly different question for you, but as you know, the Zayed Sustainability Prize is about solving big issues out there, including climate change, of course. So I was wondering how Virentia leverages AI in its soil health and regenerative agriculture solutions, such as those that make dry and arid land, fertile and arable.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, Charlotte. So I would take it as break it down into two different aspects. One is the application of AI for this to how to get better results out of cultivation in arid and desert areas. And the other is that how do we manage, because precision agriculture is a very it's a need of the hour and it's very required. But the question is, the moment you apply it to the developing nations with small and marginal farmers with small land holdings, it becomes highly difficult because all those fancy technologies of remote sensing and all, they don't work really, because the land holdings are so small and the data and the crops are so varied that it is very, very difficult to manage that. So, and another thing that we have to notice is that while the world population is growing at an alarming rate, conversely, the world's cultivable land area to grow food diminishes rapidly. It's a crisis in the making if we don't take serious cognizance of it. One key aspect of our agri-TMS that I already spoke about is tracking soil organic carbon parameters, which directly reflects soil fertility. Regenerative agriculture is a function of soil biodiversity. If you create a good habitat for microbial to live and thrive, it has a direct impact on soil fertility and consequently crop productivity. These diverse microbial require soil organic carbon to feed on and multiply. Our engine that we are creating evaluates and maps the trend of our soil organic carbon as well as all other crop growth parameters and the BRICS percentages, thus providing robust advisory on practices and products you can use to rapidly improve crop and soil health. At Virentia, we call this proprietary process at Rapid Regen. One of our famous case studies was in Sashir, in the deserts of Oman, where we grew alfalfa and converted completely arid desert land to lush, fertile farmlands over a 3-year period. We improved the soil organic carbon at an unbelievable rate of 1% per annum. Of course, we do understand agriculture is a complex science, and it is a combination of technologies, products, and processes that lead to these outcomes. A holistic science is what we believe in. Hence, we practice a systemic approach as opposed to piecemeal or symptomatic approach. There is no easy fix to some of the challenges we face. It requires dedicated research and innovation in continuum.
Thank you very much, Satyam. And the reason why I was mentioning climate change is because indeed the number of areas and the volume of land, fertile land that can be cultivated is likely to diminish, of course, as a result of this changing climate. Before we go, to conclude with, I'd like to ask you all maybe a final question to wrap up our thoughts, really. It's how you think AI can bridge the digital divide in agriculture and improve the resilience of our food systems.
Shall I go first?
Over to you. Yes, please.
Well, we continuously endeavor to utilize AI as a decision support system for farmers. It helps them make the right decisions at the right time, but we need to focus on making these tools accessible and affordable for everyone, especially developing nations and marginalized communities that produce a lot of our food.
Thank you very much, Satyam. Christopher, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think AI really is going to be instrumental in helping us sort of bridge not just the digital divide, but also the data divide and data asymmetry. I think being able to efficiently collect enough information to help make and drive better decisions is going to be critical. And ultimately, in order to be more sustainable, I think we have to keep food prices affordable. And so AI can play a critical role in helping drive a lot of that.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Allison.
AI, to me, AI is a key when it comes to accessibility of technology. And I think it is the optimist in me sees a lot of really exciting potentials when it comes to making technology cheaper and more scalable, and to make it so that anyone can fundamentally get into this industry. But I do want to add a caveat that there's no silver bullet, right? I think it's a part of an ecosystem that is really valuable, and the work that everyone is doing in ag tech in general is all kind of part of this solution, whether it's inclusive of AI or not. But the optimist in me is excited about how AI can fundamentally like shift the accessibility of technology.
Thank you very much. I think optimism is the way, Allison, always. It has to be. Many thanks to all of you, Allison, Christopher, Satyam, for your very valuable insights indeed. I'd just like to remind the audience that the closing date for the submissions for the Zayed Sustainability Prize is approaching very fast. You have until the 23rd of June to complete and submit your applications, so don't miss out on this opportunity to showcase your innovative solutions. So thanks to all of you for tuning in, for watching us. And if you want to watch the entire session, it will be posted on the Zayed Sustainability Prizes YouTube channel. So bye everyone. Thank you so much to our guests yet again, and stay tuned for new episodes of Voices of Sustainability.